going to talk a little bit about ingested poisonings to start here. Now, one of the first things we need to always realize with ingested poisonings, it's probably one of the easiest of all childhood injuries to avoid. If we keep things up that are out of the reach of children that could be potentially poisonous or the body rejects as a poison, that's the safest way to avoid having to react to this emergency. So we always want to talk about prevention first. Now, with that in mind, kids are going to get into stuff, and they're very orally inclined in that age group. From the time they're born till the time they're a couple years old, they like to stick things in their mouth and taste things, and they explore with their mouth. So we have to know their behavioral patterns to start with, and we have to realize that it's just part of the learning process. With that in mind, we've got to make sure that they learn in the proper way, in a healthy way, and keep household items away that could potentially cause them harm. Some of the household cleaning fluids that we have in our house, we're surprised at how many poisons or toxins we may have in our house. Some of the poisons that you might think of would be household cleaners, undiluted full-strength cleaners like Spick and Span, Mr. Clean, undiluted Clorox or chlorine, undiluted ammonias, bug sprays or pesticides would be especially dangerous. Oven cleaners, drain openers, very dangerous. They're some of the most dangerous things you can have in the household. Other things would be, believe it or not, ladies, cosmetics. Cosmetics are a leading call to poison control centers. So we need to make sure that if we have a pocketbook out that has cosmetics, make sure to keep it up. Surprisingly, there's one poison that's been ingested more in the last 3 or 4 years than any other, and that's alcohol-based hand sanitizers. We all have them in our pocketbooks, or just about all of us are in our cars, or all around our house at times. We need to keep them out of the reach of small children, and they have found a positive correlation between scented aromas and take, for instance, vanilla or strawberry or peach. If a little kid smells it and it smells good, he's going to see if it tastes good. Now, this doesn't cause tremendous damage, usually just esophageal mouth burns, but it's the wrong type of alcohol. It's a wood or it's a isopropyl or ethyl alcohol, and it's not a grain alcohol. It's not meant for consumption, and it is a poison. So keep that away. Make sure things are locked up. Small children, you need to have safety locks on all of your areas where you may keep these poisons or toxins. Drawers, you can get little drawer latches if you have cosmetics and keep them up out of the reach. So with ingested poisonings in mind, try your best to think that think like a child. Child-resistant caps on medicine bottles. It seems like a good idea, but it's really not. It does deter a lot of cases, but you know how it is. A lot of instances, give a kid something that says child-resistant, you can't get into it. Give it to a kid; he'll figure it out. They're pretty smart, and when they watch us open bottles, they learn very quickly, and they can learn to push down and turn the top or line up an arrow, little things like that that are supposed to be child-resistant. So just remember they're child-resistant, not child-proof. That's another thing that we need step we need to take. Now, in the case where ingested poisoning does occur, we need to remember one phone number to the Poison Control Center. It's 1-800-222-1222. That's 1-800-222-1222. And the poison control number, poison control staff are very smart, and they, along with emergency personnel, do a very good job at these accidental or ingested poisonings. The idea is now is to, if the patient's responsive, call Poison Control Center. If the patient's unresponsive, call 911. We always do that in any situation. Now, we have this neat thing called three-way calling now, and this three-way calling allows us to, if we call the Poison Control Center and they need to get emergency medical services involved, a quick phone call that way, and of course vice versa. If you call the 911 number, they will probably call a poison control center to see what happens. The problem is when a poison is ingested, it can burn the mouth, it can burn the throat, but it can also burn the stomach even more, because the stomach has a lot of hydrochloric acid in it. And with that hydrochloric acid, when there's a mixture, especially if another acid, it kind of compounds the problem. Years ago, when I was a kid, when a lot of y'all were kids, probably the old treatment was Ipecac. Ipecac is a black syrupy stuff that people would give you, or that you'd be given if you got into a medicine cabinet or something like that. I got into a bottle of orange flavored aspirin and had to drink a little bit of that. It makes you sick automatically. Also digitally or with your fingers make that individual sick. But we know now that that's the wrong thing to do. What we're going to do now, generally speaking, now of course you follow not only dispatcher rules on this, but generally they're going to basically tell you if the patient's responsive, give them water or milk to drink. What does that water or milk do? It washes it out of the tender mouth. It washes it out of the tender throat. And it just dilutes it and puts it into the stomach, which is tougher. And at that point, we'll get them to the emergency room, do a gastric lavage or stomach pumping, and the toxins will come out of a plastic tube so it doesn't burn on the way up. That's the trick now for treatment, is to minimize it by diluting it in the stomach and then getting the stomach pumped in very quick order here. With all of these emergencies, remember, our job, after we see an emergency occur, call 911, and there's a brief time, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before they get there, and they're going to take over if that's the case. So it's going to be a very short, brief period of time, but we need to do the best that we can in that short period of time to make sure that patients who do suffer these sudden illnesses or injuries are taken care of as well and promptly as possible. The whole key is ever-increasing health care. You provide that basic first aid to stabilize the patient. Then we get to the EMTs and paramedics who can stabilize the patient even further and improve the situation a lot of times. And of course the emergency room, ever-increasing care. And then they'll go to specialized areas if the patient needs to. Ever-increasing care is what saves patients. And that's what we want to do, is save the children in these situations where they maybe have ingested a poison or something. Thanks for watching.